God's chosen ones. Stop right here. This is not an ordinary video. This is not entertainment. This is a divine crossroad, disguised as a moment on your screen. You are here, not by coincidence. Not by luck. Something far greater than you or I has drawn you to this exact second in time. If you're still watching, it means you've already been marked. You've stepped into what I call creator mode, a realm where destiny is not written for you, but by you. But before we go any further, let me ask, who has called you here? Is it some shadowy cabal? Some hidden powers spying on your every move? No, the truth is far more ancient and far more personal. They are not outsiders pulling invisible strings. They are the pulse of the universe itself, the breath that moves through all creation, the eternal current that flows through every soul that has ever existed. And right now, they have chosen you. If you feel that in your spirit, I dare you comment 777 below as your public declaration. And to those who have supported this channel through super thanks, your generosity is felt deeply, and I bless you for it. You're not just another passerby scrolling through life. You've been activated, and now you sit in the driver's seat of your reality. But here's the real question. What does creator mode actually mean, and why will it decide your future? God's chosen ones. This video will decide your future. Only 1%. Dare to click. You stand on the very brink of something that few ever reach, a threshold where destiny no longer chases you, but waits for you to command it. This is not coincidence, nor the random shuffle of time and chance. You have stepped into the chamber where the architects of eternity once walked. And now the blueprint of your universe rests in your hands. Scripture whispers in Psalm 8-6, you made them rulers over the works of your hands. You put everything under their feet. What happens when you finally realize that truth was never meant for someone else? It was meant for you. Think about how often life has felt like a river dragging you downstream. Currents deciding your path. Unseen forces deciding your tomorrow. That ends here. The moment you entered this space, you crossed an invisible line, a covenant unseen by human eyes, yet sealed in the heavens. You have been entrusted with the same divine energy that commands the stars to burn, that summons the tides to rise, that breathes life into dust. Genesis 2:7 says, Then the Lord God formed man of dust from the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. That breath still courses through you, waiting for you to wield it. But this is not an ornament to admire, it's a weapon to steward. Creator mode is never given to the untested. It is not an award handed to the popular or the loud. It is the silent seal placed upon those who have been weighed in the scales of time and not found wanting. Yet this calling is double-edged. To hold power is to hold the fate of more than just yourself. History is littered with those who could not bear the weight. Men like Herod Agrippa, one who, as Acts 12 records, received the praise of men as though he were a god, and was struck down because he did not give glory to the one who gave him breath. Perhaps you sense it already, that unsettling pull in your chest, that almost unbearable awareness that after this, you will never again be able to pretend you do not know. It is the same stirring that came upon Esther when Mordecai told her in Esther 4:14, And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? Once she stepped forward. Her life no longer belonged to her comfort, it belonged to her calling. In our modern age, some have understood this rare mantle, The Italian sculptor Michelangelo once said, "The greater danger for most of us lies not in setting our aim too high and falling short, but in setting it too low and achieving our mark." Those words echo the law of creator mode. You were not built for mediocrity. To aim low is to betray the breath of God in your lungs. But if there are those who rise to this charge, there are also those who corrupt it. Take, for instance, the forgotten story of Cesare Borgia, son of a pope. Gifted with political cunning and unmatched resources, his ambition built empires, but his greed eroded them faster than they rose. He grasped the power to shape kingdoms, but lacking divine alignment, he built monuments of sand. Creator mode without humility is nothing more than destruction wearing a crown. You see, the tests you've endured, betrayals, closed doors, seasons of silence, were not random punishments. They were the furnace, the architect's chisel shaping you into a living cathedral capable of housing the weight of divine authority. James Uxie, Coxitoista promises. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life. And when that crown comes, it will not sit as an ornament, it will sit as a responsibility. Now, the question remains not to your mind, but to your spirit. Are you willing to become the living blueprint heaven has been drafting since the day you were born? Or will you, like so many before, let the river carry you away from the shore you were meant to build upon? Matthew 5:14 declares, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. The time for hiding is over. Rise now. Chosen one, stand as the architect of the unseen. Command the atmosphere with the authority you've been given. For the foundations have been poured. The scaffolding of your destiny stands ready, and the master builder waits for you to take the first stone in your hand. There is no going back, only forward. The hour has struck. The gates are open. Step into creator mode, and let the kingdom come through you. In creator mode, you stop cataloging reasons why things will fail and start identifying seeds that could grow. You move from saying, "This is too much for me," to asking, "How can this become the very thing that advances me?" Just as a forest fire clears the undergrowth for new life to emerge, every loss and setback becomes fuel for your next season. This is not about ignoring the pain, it's about converting it. Every emotion, every wound, every overlooked detail becomes raw material for construction. The way even the discarded branches in winter become shelter for creatures who know how to use them. And like a master gardener who knows when to prune, you learn that some cutting away is not cruelty, but care. 2 Corinthiens 4, 17 assure us. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. The weight you carry now will one day become the strength that keeps your foundation from cracking. And here's the beauty: you are not building alone. You are co-creating with the divine. These moments of alignment are not coincidences, they are whispers from eternity. Subtle currents that draw you toward your appointed harbor. Think of the way migratory birds travel thousands of miles, guided by instincts they cannot explain yet, cannot ignore. You have felt this too, the phone call at the perfect time, the door that opened without you knocking, the strength that rose within you on the day you thought you had none left. Isaiah 3:27 promises. Whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you, saying, "This is the way, walk in it." Sometimes that voice is as gentle as the wind shifting in a sail, other times as unshakable as the tide against the rocks. And the more you learn to trust that current, the less you will fear where it's taking you. At times, these moments feel so orchestrated, they could be scenes from a play. In Victor Hugo's Les Miserables, there's a moment when the priest gives Valjean the silver that could have condemned him, instead using it to redeem him, changing the entire course of his life. Creator mode works in much the same way. What the world sees as ruin, heaven can recast as the turning point. This transformation is not about pretending the prison never existed. It's about recognizing that the key was forged in the same fire that built the chains. Genesis 50:20 echoes this truth. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done. When you look back, you will see that every twist in the plot was a rehearsal for the moment you finally stepped into your role. This is why in creator mode, nothing is wasted. Like a great river that carries both silt and gold, every experience enriches the soil of your future. You become proactive, no longer waiting for the tides to deliver you to shore. You learn to set your sails with the wind heaven provides. James 1:17 says, "Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights." Even the storm is a delivery system for what you need. And in those storms, you find that the same waves which once threatened to drown you are now the very currents carrying you forward. Each gust of wind is no longer chaos, it is propulsion. You realize that destiny is not built in the absence of resistance, but in learning how to use that resistance as your greatest ally. Now the question is, will you move as one who believes the current is for you? Or will you cling to the rocks in fear of being carried into the unknown? The forces that align for you are ancient, deliberate, and unfailing. The gates are already swinging open. Step forward, chosen one, and co-create a reality where heaven's blueprint becomes earth's foundation. This is your appointed time, not to survive, but to reign. Hebrews 10:35, -36 urges. So do not throw away your confidence. It will be richly rewarded. You need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what He has promised. The waters are rising, the wind is shifting, and the call has gone out. Stand up, take the oars in your hands. Let the voyage begin. The right person, the right opportunity, the right idea. It did not appear by random drift, but at the precise intersection of timing and preparation. That moment was not an accident. It was a deliberate alignment, as if the invisible scaffolding of heaven shifted to place the stone directly in your hands. Proverbs 16:9 reminds us, in their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. This is the universe's way of saying, we are with you, keep moving forward. The question that now rises like a tide is this: how can you be certain you are truly moving with this universal current and not simply swimming in circles of your own making? How do you know the hand guiding you is not your own illusion? You can tell you are in alignment when progress carries the rhythm of resonance, when your actions feel like notes struck in perfect harmony with a grander composition. This does not mean the score will be free of dissonant chords. It means you will feel the resolution even in the tension. In creator mode, you move through challenges as a ship cuts through water, shaped by both the wind and the architect's design. The resistance of the waves no longer feels like opposition. It feels like the structural load that keeps your vessel balanced. Isaiah 26:3 says, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you." This peace is not passive. It is engineered like a cathedral's arch, distributing the weight evenly so that it can rise higher without collapsing. Many stumble here because they mistake control for stability. They grip the blueprint so tightly that the ink smears, forgetting that the master builder sees beyond the page. They force the walls to rise before the foundation has set, and then wonder why the structure leans. In physics, this is like trying to force resonance at the wrong frequency. It shatters instead of strengthening. True alignment is about setting your intention, acting with precision, and then stepping back to allow the unseen forces to do their work. It is the moment between plays in a great match, the silence before the crowd erupts when every muscle is ready. But no one rushes, because the timing is sacred. When your moment comes, will you trust the sacred timing or try to seize it before it's fully yours? In the modern world, some have mastered this art. The legendary conductor Herbert von Karajan once said, "The art of conducting consists in knowing when to stop conducting to let the orchestra play." This is creator mode in its purest form, knowing when your hands must move and when they must rest. It is trust in motion, rooted in the awareness that the music was never yours alone to play. So the question remains, will you wrestle with the current until your strength gives out? Or will you allow the tide to carry you into the harbor prepared for you? This is not surrender, it is the highest form of mastery. Psalm 37:23 declares, "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way." Step into that order, loosen your grip on the illusion of control, and take hold of the unshakable truth that heaven's architecture is already complete. You are simply walking the halls. The gates are open. Rise now, and let the symphony play. While many spend their energy asking how to create, the deeper question, the one that determines the true reach of your power, is why. Your why is the engine of every vision, the heartbeat that sustains it. When the process grows heavy, why do you desire to manifest what you dream? Is it to feed the hollowness of pride? To silence critics? To climb a pedestal for your own applause? Or is it because something within you burns to build what will outlive you? To plant seeds whose fruit will feed people you may never meet? 1 Corinthians 10:24 urges, "No one should seek their own good, but the good of others." The universe aligns with the latter, not the former. And when that alignment happens, even the smallest act can become a spark that ignites change far beyond your own horizon. When your creations are woven into the fabric of a greater good, their strength multiplies beyond your reach. The universe does not lean toward pursuits inflated with ego. It gravitates toward those born of compassion and service. The hand of heaven does not steady towers built to glorify one name. It upholds bridges meant to carry many. History shows this truth. The visionary reformer, William Wilberforce, fought tirelessly against the transatlantic slave trade, not for fame, but because his conscience could not rest in a world chained by injustice. His cause was not self-serving, and the momentum of providence moved on his behalf until the chains were legally broken. Such purpose becomes an unshakable foundation. Storms may strike, but they cannot dismantle what has been built for the good of many. But there are those whose why curdles into ruin. The little-known Italian condottiero Muzio Attendolo Sforza, gifted in command, favored by fortune, yet driven more by personal glory than lasting legacy. His shifting loyalties bought him short-term gains, but eroded trust until the alliances he relied on collapsed, leaving his victories scattered like ashes in the wind. Such is the fate of one who builds for self over service. The structure stands for a season, then crumbles, because no greater purpose holds it together. Proverbs 16:18 warns. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. The echoes of such collapse serve as a cautionary bell, reminding us that even the brightest rise can end in shadow when the heart is not anchored. If all you've built began to crumble tomorrow, would it reveal a foundation of service or the hollow frame of self? To be in creator mode is to step into a state of flow, so consuming that time dissolves. Hours pass like minutes because you are no longer divided. You are fully present, fully alive, and fully connected to something greater than yourself. The noise fades. The inner critic grows silent, and you move as though guided by an unseen rhythm. It is the potter lost in shaping the clay, the composer so immersed in melody that the room disappears. This immersion is not mere productivity, it is alignment between your inner spirit and the greater current. And in that current, every action becomes a note in a divine symphony, carrying your work into places you may never set foot yourself. And here is the paradox. In losing yourself to that work, you find your truest self. The I that was once obsessed with approval gives way to the we that understands every brush stroke, every note. Every brick laid in love sends ripples into the collective. The same thread that strengthens your tapestry strengthens the whole. Galatians 6:9 promises. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. And when that harvest comes, it will not only feed you, it will feed generations, turning your obedience into a legacy. When your season of harvest arrives, will your field be full, or will it stand bare where seeds were never sown? So stand now with your why sharpened and your motives weighed. Ask not what you can take from the world, but what you can plant in it that will endure beyond you. The time for half-hearted creation is over. The hour for self-serving towers has passed. Step forward into creator mode with hands ready to build and a heart anchored in service. This is where mountains move. This is where destinies turn. And this is where you rise. And if you rise now, you will find that heaven itself has been holding the door open, waiting for you to walk through. There is a moment, a rare and sacred stillness that can settle over you, even while the world around you churns with noise and uncertainty. It is the still point in the turning world, the way the heart of a hurricane holds a silence untouched by the violence on every side. This is what creator mode feels like, not merely reacting to what happens outside, but shaping it from the deepest place within. Philippians 4:7 describes it this way: "And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." In this state, you are no longer a leaf blown aimlessly by the wind. You are the rooted cedar whose branches may sway but whose foundation is unshaken. When the storms come, will you remain the rooted cedar or be swept away like the leaf? Yet even here, you are still human. There will be days when doubt whispers like a cold wind through the cracks, when the sky clouds over and you wonder if the light has forgotten your name. There will be hours when you feel as if you have wandered off the path entirely. But these moments are not signs that you have failed. They are part of the pilgrimage. Just as winter strips the tree bare, so it can grow stronger in spring. These seasons strip away what no longer serves you. James 1:2-3 reminds us, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. For every root that grows deeper in winter, there will be a spring where the branches stretch higher than before." Creator mode is not a shield that keeps the storms away. It is the training that teaches you how to sail through them with grace and mastery. It is learning the way the eagle does not fight the wind, but uses its current to rise higher. You carry the tools now, wisdom as your compass, grace as your sailcloth, allowing you to navigate the peaks and valleys without losing your center. In this way, you are no longer at the mercy of your circumstances. You have discovered the truth. Romans 8:37 declares, "In all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us." And victory in the kingdom is not the absence of struggle, but the unshakable certainty that love has already written the final chapter. In the 1986 European film The Mission, there is a moment when a man burdened by his past drags his armor and weapons up a treacherous cliff. The load seems impossible, yet he refuses to let it go until mercy intervenes, cutting it loose and sending it into the river below. That release becomes the turning point of his redemption. In creator mode, you are invited into that same release, letting go of what once weighed you down so you can walk forward lighter, freer, more aligned with your true calling. So here is the question that echoes now. Are you willing to shed the old skin, the identity stitched together by fear and limitation? Are you ready to step into the open field of the unknown, trusting that the same God who clothes the lilies and feeds the sparrows will guide you? Matthew 6:26 asks, "Are you not much more valuable than they?" If your spirit is stirred in this moment, it is because you are being called not to shrink, but to rise. The invitation stands before you to co-create with the one who spoke galaxies into being, to shape the unseen into the visible, to let your hands and heart become instruments of divine design. Isaiah 41:10 Asures. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. This is your threshold. Step across it. Leave behind the shell of who you were, and stand in the fullness of who you are called to be. The winds are shifting, the waters are opening, and heaven itself is leaning in, waiting for you to move. You've stepped across the threshold. You're ready. The only question left is, are you willing to stay here long enough to hear what was always meant for you? Now that you've entered creator mode, the next step is learning how to connect with the silent forces that have been guiding you all along. These forces are not a myth, not wishful thinking. They are constants in the architecture of existence, woven into the very fabric of reality. Psalm 36 Kahdeksan promises, "I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you." But to follow, you must first recognize the hand that points the way. You've likely felt their presence before in those moments of intuition, so sharp it cut through the noise, in the sudden clarity that came without a chain of logic, in the unexplainable sense that something greater was aligning events around you. These are not accidents. They are the quiet reverberations of heaven's design. The way a bridge hums at its resonant frequency, carrying the weight not with strain, but with perfect balance. Could it be that the coincidences you've dismissed were actually blueprints, delivered in fragments, waiting for you to assemble them? The universe does not shout over the static of your mind. It speaks in low frequencies, carried in the spaces between your thoughts, like the stillness before a great cathedral's organ exhales its first note, or the held breath between two movements of a symphony. Most people never hear it, not because it's absent, but because they've mistaken noise for life. 1 Kings 19:12 reminds us that God's voice was not in the wind, the earthquake, or the fire, but in the gentle whisper. How many times have you drowned out that whisper with the chaos of your own schedule? To hear it, you must cultivate stillness, not the absence of movement, but the anchoring of your internal frequency. In psychological terms, this is the shift from reactive mind to integrated awareness. In physics, it's the principle of constructive interference, where two waves meet in perfect alignment to create a greater amplitude. When your inner state resonates with divine guidance, the signal becomes impossible to miss. That's why, in creator mode, your task is not to manufacture control, but to tune yourself like an instrument until you vibrate in harmony with the voice calling you forward. History gives us models of this. The renowned cellist Pablo Casals, who performed well into his 90s, once said, "The most important thing in music is not the notes, but the silence between them." His mastery came not only from playing, but from listening, knowing that the pauses held as much power as the sound. The same is true in creator mode. The pauses, the moments of intentional quiet, are where the clearest instructions arrive. You've stepped across the threshold. You're ready. The only question left is, are you willing to stay here long enough to hear what was always meant for you? Now that you've entered creator mode, the next step is learning how to connect with the silent forces that have been guiding you all along. These forces are not a myth, not wishful thinking. They are constants in the architecture of existence, woven into the very fabric of reality. Psalm 32:8 promises, "I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you." But to follow, you must first recognize the hand that points the way. You've likely felt their presence before in those moments of intuition so sharp it cut through the noise. In the sudden clarity that came without a chain of logic. In the unexplainable sense that something greater was aligning events around you. These are not accidents. They are the quiet reverberations of heaven's design. The way a bridge hums at its resonant frequency, carrying the weight not with strain, but with perfect balance. Could it be that the coincidences you've dismissed were actually blueprints, delivered in fragments, waiting for you to assemble them? The universe does not shout over the static of your mind. It speaks in low frequencies, carried in the spaces between your thoughts, like the stillness before a great cathedral's organ exhales its first note, or the held breath between two movements of a symphony. Most people never hear it, not because it's absent, but because they've mistaken noise for life. 1. Kings 19:12 reminds us that God's voice was not in the wind, the earthquake, or the fire, but in the gentle whisper. How many times have you drowned out that whisper with the chaos of your own schedule? To hear it, you must cultivate stillness, not the absence of movement, but the anchoring of your internal frequency. In psychological terms, this is the shift from reactive mind to integrated awareness. In physics, it's the principle of constructive interference, where two waves meet in perfect alignment to create a greater amplitude. When your inner state resonates with divine guidance, the signal becomes impossible to miss. That's why in creator mode, your task is not to manufacture control, but to tune yourself like an instrument until you vibrate in harmony with the voice calling you forward. History gives us models of this. The renowned cellist Pablo Casals, who performed well into his 90s, once said, "The most important thing in music is not the notes, but the silence between them." His mastery came not only from playing, but from listening, knowing that the pauses held as much power as the sound. The same is true in creator mode. The pauses, the moments of intentional quiet, are where the clearest instructions arrive. And yet, these pauses are not empty. They are pregnant with direction. In those suspended moments, heaven aligns resources, people, and timing in ways you cannot see. It is like the still air before the break of dawn, when the earth seems to hold its breath because it knows light is on the way. It is like the hush that falls over an arena before the final decisive move, when every spectator leans forward in anticipation. This is where trust is forged, not in the flurry of activity, but in the charged silence before the breakthrough. And when that moment arrives, it will not be a polite nudge. It will be the unmistakable pull to step out, act, and build what only you were born to build. When that pull comes, will you hesitate, or will you rise before the world even catches its breath? So the real question is, will you keep rushing through the corridors of your life? Or will you stop in the grand hall and finally hear the echo meant for you? Isaiah 30:15 declares, "In repentance and rest is your salvation. In quietness and trust is your strength." The blueprint is here. The Master's voice is speaking, and the next stone in your destiny waits to be placed. Step into the stillness, hear the whisper, then rise and build. The practice of stillness is not a luxury. It is a discipline, a chosen posture that shifts the axis of your entire life. Whether it is through deliberate moments of quiet reflection, slow and mindful breathing, or simply setting aside time each day to be fully present, you are not merely resting, you are building an inner sanctuary. Psalm 46:10 calls to us, "Be still and know that I am God." In that stillness, the noise of the world fades, and the voice that has been speaking since before you were born becomes unmistakably clear. When you truly quiet the mind, you open a space where the eternal can speak into the temporal. You begin to notice the patterns you once overlooked, the alignment of events, the unexpected meeting, the phrase you needed to hear at just the right time. Are these really coincidences? Or could they be the threads of a tapestry too vast for your eyes to see in full? The truth is, these signs are always there. But they require more than observation. They require trust. And trust is where many falter. People receive these nudges, but dismiss them as random. They question their own intuition, treat their inner knowing as an unreliable witness. But James 1-6 warns, "When you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind." In creator mode, doubt is the saboteur at the gate. You cannot entertain it if you wish to move forward. This higher guidance will often defy logic, not because it is irrational, but because it sees from a vantage point beyond your own. Great leaders have known this. Corrie ten Boom, a Dutch Christian watchmaker who sheltered Jews during the Nazi occupation, followed her convictions even when they endangered her life. She often spoke of the inner compass God placed in each person, a compass that must be trusted even when the path is unclear. Her obedience led to countless lives being saved, proof that divine guidance, when followed, multiplies its impact far beyond what we imagine. But history also warns us of the opposite. There was Francesco Scenzi, a wealthy Roman nobleman of the late 1502, infamous for his corruption and cruelty, blinded by arrogance. He ignored every warning both from law and conscience, believing his power untouchable. His refusal to listen led not only to his violent downfall, but to the destruction of his own family's legacy. This is the end for those who scorn guidance. They may build quickly, but their foundations crumble in silence before the collapse becomes visible. So how do you discern the voice worth following? It comes down to more than hearing, it comes down to feeling. True guidance resonates in the soul like a bell whose tone lingers in the air long after it is struck. John de Smith, Div de Smith septinia suresus. My sheep listen to my voice, I know them, and they follow me. When the message comes from that higher place, it will carry both a weight and a peace that coexists. And even if it defies human reasoning, something within you will know it is right. The real question is, will you ignore that resonance because it doesn't fit your plan? Or will you step forward in faith, trusting the one who sees the full design? Proverbs 3-5-6 urges, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." The next turn in your story may not be marked by a loud command, but by a whisper you almost miss. Listen for it, trust it, and when it comes, act without hesitation. True guidance, when it comes, carries a signature you cannot mistake. It moves through you with a sense of calm that is unshakable, a certainty that holds, even when the ground seems to shift, a peace that is not fragile but anchored. It feels light, expansive, and aligned, as though your spirit has opened its wings and found the wind prepared to lift it. Colossiens 3:15 urge, "Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts." Since, as members of one body, you were called to peace. But how often do we ignore this peace because it doesn't match our plans? How many times has the quiet assurance been overridden by the noise of our expectations? The tragedy is that we often trade what is eternal for what is immediate, not realizing that true peace is not passive. It is active alignment with the one who sees the whole picture. On the other hand, when a thought is born of fear, doubt, or ego, it drapes over you like a storm cloud, heavy, constricting, and full of tension. If you stop and listen, even your body will testify. Your chest will feel tighter, your breath shorter, your shoulders heavier. You are a living instrument, and your body is one of the Creator's most precise tools for discernment. John 14:27 confirms this truth. "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." And yet, how often do we silence this inner signal because the world around us moves too fast? Our culture praises constant noise and endless motion, but heaven's direction is found in moments of deliberate stillness. The more you learn to honor that stillness, the sharper your discernment becomes. Here's where the path narrows. Sometimes genuine guidance will not feel comfortable. It will not invite you to stay within the garden walls. It will ask you to step into the wilderness. It will nudge you toward the edge of the branch, the way a fledgling is pushed by the wind into its first flight. Deuteronomy 31:6 tells us, "Be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you." If that is true, then why do so many of us turn back when the ground feels unfamiliar? Could it be that the fear we interpret as danger is actually the signal we've reached the threshold of transformation? Fear, in creator mode, becomes the compass that points you toward the exact door you were meant to open. And the more resistance you feel, the more significant the breakthrough often is on the other side. The natural world knows this truth well. The pearl is born from irritation inside the oyster. The river carves the canyon through centuries of relentless pressure. The seed must split before the tree can rise. What if the very tension you're resisting is the force designed to unlock your hidden treasure? James 1-3-4 says, "The testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." Nature never panics in the process. It trusts the timing written into its design. So why do we fight against the seasons meant to shape us? Could it be that your current struggle is not an interruption, but the womb of your future victory? In the 2003 French-Italian film Saints and Soldiers, a small group of men must cross enemy territory with limited resources and constant danger. Each step defies logic, yet each act of courage becomes the bridge to survival. Doesn't creator mode work the same way? It doesn't promise a safe path. it promises the right one. And if the one guiding you can see the full map, why should you fear the next turn? Even if it's hidden from your sight, the most dangerous thing you can do is mistake the absence of comfort for the absence of God. Sometimes, His greatest works begin on roads that feel the most uncertain, and here's the deeper layer. When you follow guidance into the unknown, you enter the intersection of heaven's timing and earth's readiness. It is like the eagle poised on the cliff's edge. Muscles coiled, wind felt, but not yet caught. It is the final swell of a symphony before the chord resolves a pause so full of anticipation that you can almost hear eternity holding its breath. Isaiah 41:13 reassures, "For I am the Lord your God who takes hold of your right hand. Do not fear, I will help you." Could it be that this very pause is the sign that your moment is here, and when that moment comes, will you have the courage to step into it? Remember, opportunity rarely announces itself with trumpets. It comes quietly, disguised as a decision that only you can make. Everything you thought you knew about creator mode is about to be tested. The real measure is not whether you can design a life of comfort, it is whether you can build a life that resonates at the frequency of your highest potential. Ephesians 2:10 says, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." This is not about arranging pretty rooms in a crumbling house. It is about tearing down what cannot hold the weight of your destiny and constructing something in alignment with heaven's blueprint. Sometimes that means walking paths no one else can see and enduring the silence of being misunderstood. But can you trust that unseen scaffolding is rising beneath your feet, even when the ground looks incomplete? This is the test that separates dreamers from builders, because anyone can imagine, but only those who endure the unknown can bring the invisible into reality. Here is the beauty when you begin to follow divine guidance, when you start trusting the silent forces that have been tracking your steps since before you were born. Life shifts from linear to symphonic. Synchronicities no longer surprise you. They become the expected rhythm. Proverbs 16:9 reminds us, "In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." Walls turn into doorways. Closed gates swing open without you forcing them. And opportunities seem to emerge from the mist like structures revealed at sunrise. Have you ever wondered if these coincidences are actually the fingerprints of God arranging your way forward? Each one is a note in the grand score of your life, placed in perfect timing so that when played together, they form a melody only you were born to carry. The more you trust, the more the universe responds. It is less like waiting for a train to arrive and more like a dance, an active, breathing exchange. You take a step, the universe matches it. You adjust your posture, heaven shifts the floor beneath you, in creator mode. This is not passive attraction, it is architectural collaboration. Your faith is the foundation slab, your obedience is the steel reinforcement, your daily actions are the load bearing walls. And like the resonance that strengthens a bridge when its frequency matches the wind's rhythm, your life becomes structurally sound when your actions match the frequency of divine instruction. Hebrews 11:6 affirms, "Without faith it is impossible to please God. He rewards those who earnestly seek Him." This is why hesitation weakens the frame, but consistent movement fortifies it until it can hold the weight of all you've been promised. In our modern world, some have embodied this principle. The late architect Zaha Hadid, celebrated for her futuristic designs, once said, "There are 360 degrees, so why stick to one?" She refused to be confined by conventional lines. and in doing so, reshaped the skylines of entire cities in creator mode. This same refusal to be bound by visible limits is what opens the invisible ones. It is not rebellion for rebellion's sake. It is alignment with a vision others cannot yet see. Like Hadid, you may have to endure the years when your designs are misunderstood, even mocked. Before the day comes when the world can finally step into what you built, are you willing to keep building during the seasons when applause is absent? But remember, this is not a spectator sport. You are not sitting on the sidelines, hoping the play goes in your favor. You are the one on the field, breathing in the silence before the next decisive move, fully aware that the outcome hinges on your willingness to act. This is why James 2:26 declares, "Faith without deeds is dead." Creator mode is listening with precision, trusting without hesitation, and taking inspired action without delay. Every time you move in step with that guidance, you reinforce the structure of the life God is building with you, and every brick you lay in obedience becomes part of a fortress that will stand when lesser structures fall. Momentum in the unseen creates stability in the seen, and the architect of your destiny wastes nothing. And now, the question that matters most: are you ready to keep building when the blueprints look nothing like your current surroundings? Will you trust the resonance over the noise, the blueprint over the crowd's opinion, the architect's hand over your own limited sight? Isaiah 58:11 promises, "The Lord will guide you always. He will satisfy your needs in a sun-scorched land and will strengthen your frame." The dance has already begun. The next step is yours. But will you take it when the music is still faint, when the room is still empty, when the applause has not yet come? Those who move then are the ones who later stand on the walls they once built in silence. You hold something rare in your hands. Now let's talk about the role of faith in all of this. Faith is not merely a religious term. It is one of the most powerful structural pillars in the architecture of creation itself. Faith is the unwavering belief in things unseen. The conviction that even when the full blueprint is hidden, the foundation is being laid exactly as it should be. Hebrews 11:1 defines it clearly. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. In creator mode, faith is not an optional add-on. It is your anchor. It is what keeps you grounded when plans unravel, when the path is foggy, when shadows of doubt creep across the edges of your vision. And here's the paradox: faith is forged in places where the evidence is absent. That's why the moments you feel most uncertain are often the moments heaven is laying the deepest stones beneath your feet. Without faith, you will always be vulnerable to the winds of uncertainty, constantly second-guessing, endlessly asking yourself if you've taken a wrong turn. But with faith, you move forward with an unshakable calm, knowing that even unseen hands are guiding your steps. Isaiah 36:3 promises, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you." This is not blind optimism, it is anchored trust. And trust changes everything. It allows you to breathe in storms, to take the next step when the map fades, to rest in the assurance that there is no such thing as being off schedule when you are aligned with the architect of your life. How many of your greatest breakthroughs were preceded by a season that looked like silence? Faith is not built in a single leap, it's cultivated in steady steps. Every time you follow a whisper of intuition, every time you act on divine guidance, even when it defies human logic, you strengthen what I call your faith muscle. Over time, these steps form a track record you cannot deny. You begin to recognize the pattern, the doors that opened at the exact moment you needed them, the provision that arrived just before the deadline. The peace that covered you in the middle of chaos. Romans 8:28 declares. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him. This is why the smallest yes in faith can trigger a chain of divine alignment far greater than you can comprehend. And with each act of obedience, the distance between hearing and trusting becomes shorter. We've seen this lived out in history. Florence Nightingale, the pioneering nurse who transformed medical care, once said, "I am a fellow worker with God, working for his purposes." Her work began in opposition, isolation, and immense doubt from others. Yet she trusted her inner calling, taking step after step until her vision reformed healthcare for entire nations. Faith did not spare her from hardship, it carried her through it. And perhaps the same is true for you. The weight you carry right now is not punishment, but preparation for a platform you cannot yet see. Will you keep walking until the day the purpose of this season is revealed? But history also gives us the opposite lesson. Gilles de Rais, a 15th century French nobleman and former comrade of Joan of Arc, began with influence and opportunity, yet abandoned moral alignment. He placed his trust in power and indulgence instead of divine direction, and his legacy collapsed into scandal and destruction. Without the anchor of faith, brilliance can drift into ruin. Proverbs 16:18 warns. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. His life is a sobering reminder that talent and opportunity without moral grounding can turn a potential legacy into a cautionary tale. So how do you grow a faith that endures? You begin by treating every act of trust as a seed. You plant it, water it with obedience, and guard it from the weeds of cynicism. As it grows, you start to see the larger pattern, the way your personal story fits into a far greater design. 2 Corinthians 5:7 reminds us, "For we live by faith, not by sight." The greatest builders in history laid stones for cathedrals they would never see finished. Can you do the same for the life God is constructing through you? And when the temptation comes to quit halfway, will you remember that what feels like delay is often the final phase of preparation before the unveiling? Life in creator mode is woven into an intricate web of synchronicities, each thread connecting events you thought were unrelated, each knot tied by a hand you cannot see. Yet faith does not promise a smooth path. It does not remove the wind from the storm or the climb from the mountain. 1 Peter 1-7 says, "These trials will show that your faith is genuine. It is being tested as fire tests and purifies gold." In fact, the challenges are not detours. They are the shaping tools of the architect. They are the tide that strengthens the swimmer, the resistance that forges the blade. If the ocean never had waves, would the shoreline have its form? If the tree never faced winter, would its roots go deep enough to survive the heat of summer? And if the eagle never faced strong winds, would its wings ever learn to rise higher? Even the most majestic rivers carve their beauty through years of friction with stone. So too your destiny is shaped through the friction of trials. So the next time a challenge rises like a wall before you, resist the urge to turn back. Instead, pause and ask, what is this obstacle here to teach me? Could it be the hidden gate to a part of myself I have not yet discovered? How can this moment refine my strength, sharpen my wisdom, and align me closer to the person God designed me to be? James 1:12 promises, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life." Creator mode reframes struggle. It is not evidence you are off course. It is confirmation you are advancing into new territory. And just like a sculptor sees art within the raw marble, God sees the masterpiece in you even before the first strike of the chisel. The pain of shaping is temporary, but the beauty it reveals is eternal. Now that you've entered creator mode and learned to connect with the silent forces guiding you, the next step is mastering the art of manifestation. But manifestation is not a shallow game of wishing on stars. It is not simply thinking good thoughts and waiting for the wind to carry them. It is a discipline, a science of the spirit, a deliberate act of creation in alignment with the one who spoke the universe into being. Mark 11:24 makes it plain. Whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. In creator mode, this truth becomes a working law, not an abstract idea. It is the blueprint by which unseen foundations are laid and invisible beams are aligned, just as an architect sketches the unseen skeleton of a cathedral before the first stone is placed. Without alignment to this design, the structure will not stand, but when every line is faithful to the plan, the result is both unshakable and breathtaking. The first thing you must understand about manifestation is that thoughts are not static. They are energy. They are living signals that ripple into the unseen, seeking resonance. Every thought you entertain sends out a vibration, and that vibration attracts things, people, and events that carry the same frequency. It is like planting seeds in a field. What you water with, focus and emotion will grow. But here's the deeper question. Are you planting wheat or weeds? Are your thoughts aligned with the harvest you want to see? Or are they quietly building a crop you will later wish to uproot? Philippians 4:8 guides our mental compass in the same way. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, think about such things. And just as a compass always points north regardless of the storms, your mind, if trained, will always point you toward divine alignment. Even when visibility is low, nature mirrors this law perfectly. When a sunflower turns its face toward the sun, it doesn't do so out of luck. It is following an internal design that aligns it with the very source of its growth. When migrating birds cross continents, they are not guessing the direction. They are guided by an internal compass that never fails them. The roots of the oak tree spread deeper in the darkness of the soil, long before its branches ever touch the sky. And in the same way, your unseen work, your thoughts, prayers, and actions prepare you for a visible breakthrough. Galatians 6:9 Jesus. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. This is why the waiting season is not wasted time. It is the silent construction of your future. And as in life, so in art. In the 1989 French-Italian film Jean de Florette, a man's relentless vision to cultivate barren land is tested by drought, sabotage, and skepticism. His belief, his planning, and his unwavering effort shape the land, sometimes in ways he cannot yet see. Manifestation works the same. The droughts, the delays, even the resistance are part of the process that ensures what you build will last. The soil is not rejecting the seed, it is preparing it. The Creator's timing is as precise as the seasons. Nothing blooms before its appointed hour, yet nothing can stop the bloom when the season has come. So I ask you, are you willing to tend the field of your mind with the same devotion as a master gardener tends the land? Will you remove the weeds of doubt as faithfully as you water the seeds of vision? Will you stay when others leave, trust when others fear, and keep building when others stop? Creator mode will not hand you fruit overnight. But if you persist, the harvest will not just feed you, it will feed generations. And when that day comes, you will stand under the branches of what you have grown, knowing that every storm, every drought, and every long night was worth it. Experiences, people, and circumstances that align with your inner frequency are drawn to you like iron to a magnet. This is the foundational mechanism behind the law of attraction. But here lies the great misunderstanding. Most imagine it as a simple formula. Think positive, receive positive. They envision it as sunlight, instantly making a flower bloom. But creation is far more intricate. Operating on the same principles as resonance in physics, it is not just the note you play, but the depth of the vibration, the purity of the tone, and the harmony of the overtones that determine what responds. In creator mode, your thoughts are merely the visible architecture, the outer walls, while your beliefs, emotions, and actions are the hidden load-bearing columns beneath. If the columns are cracked with fear or warped by doubt, the entire structure will tremble no matter how beautiful its facade appears. Hebrews 11:1 says, "Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see." Faith, in this sense, is the unseen foundation of manifestation, the invisible lattice holding the cathedral of your destiny upright. You could think positive thoughts from sunrise to sunset, but if the bedrock of your belief whispers, "It will never happen," then the frequency you are transmitting is laced with static. If your emotional atmosphere is saturated with lack, your signal is like a distorted radio channel, garbled, unclear, unable to attract what you truly desire. This is why many falter in manifestation. They are trying to decorate the rooftop while ignoring the cracks in the ground floor. Their minds become like unfinished bridges, grand in vision, but unable to carry the weight of reality because the hidden supports were never aligned. And here's the deeper truth. The universe is not seduced by what you say you want. It responds to what you consistently embody. James 2:26 reminds us, "Faith without works is dead." If the bridge of your destiny is left half-built, can you truly expect to walk across it when the time comes? Or will you turn back at the very edge of breakthrough? So how do you manifest consciously? It begins with clarity, a precision akin to the drafts of a master architect before the first stone is set. Vague desires produce vague results because the universe, much like a builder, cannot erect a structure from a blurred blueprint. You must know the dimensions of your vision, the materials of your faith, and the measurements of your commitment. Proverbs 29:18 declares, "Where there is no vision, the people perish." A vision is not a half-formed hope, it is a clearly drawn design, infused with purpose. In psychology, this level of clarity engages the brain's reticular activating system, sharpening awareness, so you begin to notice resources and opportunities that once blended into the background. It is the same principle a chess grandmaster uses in the calm before a decisive move. They see not just the next piece, but the entire endgame. And clarity is not simply knowing what you want, it's aligning every element of your internal frequency with that desire. Here, the words of the Italian Renaissance sculptor Benvenuto Cellini, often overlooked outside of art history circles, shine with relevance. What is not started today is never finished tomorrow. Cellini understood that creation demands immediacy, small, faithful chisels applied daily, not a grand gesture once a year. The same is true in creator mode. Your intention must be backed by continual micro-actions, each one resonating with the frequency of the outcome you seek. And just like a great concert hall is designed to amplify even the softest note, your internal architecture must be tuned to amplify even the smallest step of faith until it echoes into reality. Galatians 6, 9. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. So the question remains, will you build faithfully until the sound of your destiny resounds through the halls of eternity? Not what your ego has been conditioned to desire, but what your soul longs for at its deepest frequency. Get radically clear on that. Strip away the layers of social expectation, the noise of comparison, and the borrowed dreams of others, until only the raw, unfiltered desire remain. Then, align every part of yourself, your thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and actions, so that they form a single current flowing toward that vision. Psalm 37:4 says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." Notice it doesn't say, "He will give you what the world says you should have," but what has been planted in you from the beginning. Can you recognize the difference between the seed God planted in you and the weeds the world has sown? The next step in creator mode is to feel as if your desire has already manifested. This is where most people stumble, because they've been taught to wait for external proof before granting themselves permission to feel joy, gratitude, or anticipation. But manifestation operates on a higher law. In the kingdom's architecture, the emotional blueprint must be drawn before the physical walls can be built. If you were constructing a cathedral, would you wait until the final stone was laid to envision its beauty? Or would you hold the image from the very first chisel? Mark 11:24 reminds us, "Whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." The believing precedes the receiving. In creator mode, the order is reversed. Feeling comes first. Reality follows. When you authentically generate the emotions of already living in that reality, you emit a vibrational signal that summons it to you, like a lighthouse drawing ships through the fog. But here is the unbreakable truth: you cannot fake this frequency. You can paste on a smile, speak affirmations, or perform rituals. But if your inner atmosphere is saturated with doubt, heaven knows. The universe is not persuaded by the language of your lips, it is moved by the song of your heart. If you're struggling to generate these feelings, it's not a sign of failure, it's a signal that deeper excavation is required. A call to confront the roots of unbelief and uproot the patterns of fear. History gives us a luminous example in Corrie ten Boom, the Dutch Christian watchmaker who risked everything to hide Jews during World War II, even while imprisoned in the Ravensbrück concentration camp and stripped of almost every earthly comfort. She radiated a peace and gratitude that defied her surroundings. Her joy was not a reaction to her circumstances, but a creation from within, a frequency that not even the cruelty of the Nazis could extinguish. She once said, "Never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God." What would your life look like if your gratitude was untouchable, even in the darkest cell? But for every act of courage, there is a cautionary tale of fear turned destructive. Elizabeth Holmes, once celebrated as a groundbreaking innovator in biotechnology, determined to protect her image and company at all costs. She concealed the truth about her technology's failures, leading investors, patients, and the public into a web of deception. Her fear of losing control and status transformed promise into scandal, collapsing everything she had built. Her story is a reminder that when the need to maintain power outweighs the commitment to truth, the fall is inevitable. What good is influence if it becomes the very snare that traps you? And how many today still let fear of losing control turn them into destroyers of their own blessing? If you wish to walk as a creator, You must dare to ask yourself, what emotions am I allowing to build the scaffolding of my future? Are they strong enough to carry the weight of the miracle I'm asking for? Because in the unseen realm, the emotional resonance you sustain becomes the mortar that binds each stone of your destiny. Philippians 4, 6, 7, promise. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Peace and gratitude are not optional extras. They are the walls that guard the very gates of your manifestation. So release what no longer belongs. Release the residue of old disappointments, the inherited fears that never originated from you, the doubts that have squatted in your soul like unwanted tenants. Isaías 43, 18, 19, declares, forget the former things, do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. The Creator's blueprint for your life will not fit on the brittle paper of your past. This is the moment to step forward, fully aligned in belief, saturated in the emotions of answered prayer, and ready to build what heaven has already drawn in its eternal design. Old, limiting beliefs, fears, or doubts are like invasive roots beneath the soil, hidden, yet capable of cracking the foundation of your future if left unchecked. In creator mode, you become the gardener of your own mind, pruning away the vines that choke your vision and nurturing the seeds that bear life. Just as a river carves valleys over centuries, your thoughts carve the channels through which your destiny will flow. Romans 12, 2 Urge. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Can you see how every belief you hold, whether empowering or destructive, is quietly shaping the terrain of your reality? And here's the sobering truth. If you don't tend to these beliefs, the weeds will win by default. Your inner world is a living ecosystem, and what you feed will flourish. What if the reason your dreams haven't fully bloomed is not because they were impossible, but because the soil was never cleared for them to take root? This is where self-awareness becomes not just a tool, but a spiritual discipline. In creator mode, you must be hyper-aware of your inner atmosphere, like a sailor scanning the horizon for changes in the wind. Every thought, emotion, and belief must be measured against the question, is this in alignment with what I want to create? If the answer is no, you must pivot immediately, reframing the negative, releasing the false, or summoning gratitude even in the midst of imperfection. As the character Don Rodrigo declares in Fuente Ovejuna, he who sows injustice will harvest despair, reminding us that what we allow to take root will one day demand a harvest. Think of yourself as both architect and inspector of your soul's blueprint, making sure every beam, arch, and foundation stone aligns with heaven's design. This vigilance is not paranoia, it's protection, ensuring no hidden cracks weaken the structure God is building through you. Then comes the element so many misunderstand: action. Manifestation is not a purely mental or mystical process, it's also kinetic, woven into the fabric of your daily choices. Inspired action is not about frantic motion or forcing outcomes. It's about moving like the tide, steady, responsive, and in rhythm with the moon of divine timing. When you act from alignment, doors swing open where walls once stood, and pathways appear in places you thought were barren. James 2:17 tells us, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. If even the smallest seed must break open to grow, what movement are you willing to make to prove your faith is alive? Each step you take, no matter how small, sends a signal to the unseen realm that you are serious about stewarding what you've asked for. And often, that small step becomes the very hinge upon which a massive breakthrough swings. And here's the sacred paradox in creator mode. You understand that while action is essential, urgency is not. Everything unfolds according to divine orchestration, like a symphony where each note enters at its appointed time. You don't need to pound on heaven's door, you simply need to stay in harmony, tuning yourself to the frequency of your vision until the next cue arrives. Have you noticed how an eagle never rushes its flight, but rides the thermal currents until the wind itself carries it higher? Ecclesiastes 3:11 assures us, He has made everything beautiful in its time. Patience in creator mode is not passive waiting, it's active readiness. Like a watchman on the wall who knows the exact moment to sound the trumpet, the stillness between your steps is as holy as the movement itself. For it is in those pauses that God often whispers the next instruction. So I'll leave you with this. What are you ready to create? Not someday, but now. What masterpiece has God been sketching in the hidden chambers of your heart? Waiting for you to pick up the brush, the universe is leaning in, listening not to your wishful thinking, but to your decided conviction. Creation awaits your command. And when you finally step forward with that unwavering yes, heaven itself will conspire to meet you in the middle. The brush will meet the canvas, the stone will meet the chisel, and the vision that once felt like a distant dream will stand before you in full, living color. You've reached this moment not by accident, but by divine appointment. Everything you've heard today was never meant for the crowd. It was meant for the few who are willing to listen, to act, and to rise. If your spirit has been stirred, if your heart is burning within you, then you already know this message was a mirror to your destiny. For many are called, but few are chosen. Matthew 22:14. But now the choice is in your hands. Will you leave this moment unchanged, letting the noise of the world drown out what heaven just whispered to you? Or will you step forward, align your life with the call on your name, and walk the narrow road the masses fear to tread? The difference between the called and the chosen is obedience. Obedience in the face of uncertainty, faith in the face of fear. If this word has spoken to you, don't let it fade into memory. Take a step right now. Like, share, and comment 777 as your public declaration that you are ready for heaven's next assignment. Subscribe so you don't miss the next message that could shift the course of your life. And to those who have supported through super thanks or simply by watching with an open heart, know this: I see you, I honor you, and I thank you deeply. Whether you've given much or given only your time, your presence here is a seed sown into eternity. I bless you with wisdom to discern the right path, courage to take the next step, and the strength to endure until the promise is fulfilled. May doors swing wide before you. May the right people cross your path. And may every chain that held you back be shattered in the name of Jesus. Your future is not just approaching, it's calling. And now, chosen one, it's time to answer.